I do believe that there is a gene that determines your height. I do believe there is a gene that determines your eye color. I do believe there's a gene that's going to determine whether or not you're light skin or dark skin. But I do not believe there is a gene that predetermines that black people must work for white people all their lives. Amen. Okay, I do not believe there is such a gene.
Yo, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to Black Excellence Daily. I'm your host, Sean Croxton. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got George Subira back on the show today. Today, George is going to be talking about our attitudes when it comes to capitalism and when it comes to our entrepreneurial superstars that we tend to not give enough credit and love and respect to. Now, I mentioned a guy a couple of days ago. His name is Dr. John Demartini. That man completely changed my life. I used to be broke, living in downtown San Diego in a 300 square foot studio apartment that smelled like shrimp. My life was not going well at all. And I started studying Demartini, especially his work around values. And it just rocked my world, completely shifted my mindset, shifted my results, shifted who I was being, right? My state of being, as we may have talked about in other episodes. Now, Demartini frequently references a multi-volume book called The Book of Wealth by Hubert Howe Bancroft. I haven't read them yet. I have them at home. I just haven't read them yet. But what Bancroft does in this book is he goes back through recorded history. He looks at the Sumerians, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, other cultures as well. And he looks at the wealthiest individuals and institutions and organizations to find out and to chronicle how they built great wealth. Now, when Demartini is talking about Hubert Howe Bancroft, he says this about Bancroft's work. He says, quote, "A culture that does not develop fair exchange and understand how to manage its money is a culture that stagnates and has a high decay rate. But the culture that learns the art and mastery of wealth building and fair exchange management of economics between the members of the society and between other societies is a culture that contributes and expands and prospers." Rewind that. Listen to that again. He is saying that a culture stagnates when they don't practice fair exchange. What is fair exchange? Fair exchange is I have a product or a service that you need, and I'm going to exchange that with you for income. That's all fair exchange is. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the hookup economy in the black community, where it's like, hey, hook me up, we both black. Like, no, that's not fair exchange. And it's one of the reasons why our businesses aren't doing as well as they should be, because we're cutting into their profits, asking for hookups all the time, right? And also, as Dr. Fraser talked about a couple of days ago, we are consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming and consuming, and we're not producing enough. It is very difficult to become a society rooted in fair exchange and that kind of economics when there's so much consumption going on, buying things from other groups, but not producing things that we can sell to our own communities as well as other communities. We've lost it. There's no exchange. And we've talked about how there's, not very good management of our money as well. And so when we look at us as a group, there are many great things about us as a group, but there are also some things that really need some work. And the work that needs to be done is in the economics of things, in the fair exchange of things, in the production of things. George Subira is coming up.
I have two assumptions that I start off with. And everything that I say has a foundation resting on these two pillars, so to speak. The one foundation is that all people of all races and all religions in all countries in all times have always done two things. They made stuff and they sold it. There's no people in the history of recorded mankind civilization that did not make stuff and sell it or trade it. That's basic economics that's part of all cultures. And it's one of the things that defines and differentiates human beings from animals. Animals may make stuff. They certainly don't think about buying it or trading it, to the best of my knowledge. That's human behavior. And for black people not to focus on what it is that they make and what it is that they trade and sell with other people strips them from one of the basic things that differentiates humans from animals. And if you listen to the lectures of all our great Afrocentric minds, they will dazzle you hour after hour about what we used to produce with no real mention of what we should be producing now. Or maybe they will talk about what we should be producing now, but absolutely no plan whatsoever of actually implementing it. So that's the first thing that I rest my foundation on. The second thing I rest my foundation on is this. I do believe that there is a gene that determines your height. I do believe there is a gene that determines your eye color. I do believe there's a gene that's going to determine whether or not you're light skin or dark skin. But I do not believe there is a gene that predetermines that black people must work for white people all their lives. Amen. Okay? I do not believe there is such a gene. Now, the reason I make that statement is because our people act like there is a gene that says, this is my work for white folk gene. And they treat it and cultivate it just as much as if they cultivate their hair or exercise their body. It's a part of their reason for, if you ask African people, African-American people, they act like that the sole reason why they were put on the face of the earth was to find somebody to work, white to work for. And when they find somebody white to work for and they give them a business card, believe me, they will do everything they can to share their business card with you at these networking sessions, proud as hell to show you what it is that they do for whatever white folks felt like hiring them that particular year. So almost everything that I can possibly say rests on those two foundations, that people make stuff and sell it, and that we don't have to work for white folks. Now, everything else is kind of up for grabs. I'm willing to be flexible on most other points, but those 2 points I'm very clear on, okay? Now, let me talk about something else. Last year, almost to this very day, or was it this? It was to this very day. I gave a lecture in Youngstown, Ohio. And it was about 200 people there. A nice turnout. Everybody was in their African garb, and everybody was all humble and just, you know, in the spirit. And just before I spoke, they had a brother get up in front of the room, and he said, before we had the program, let's pay homage to our ancestors and pour the libations. And he had everybody hold hands, and they started to, he asked them to bow their heads and mention the names of forefathers and people who had gone on in the next life who had helped us fight the great battle, liberation. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to 200 people roll off 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 names, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It hit me like a ton. I had to change my presentation that night. I mean, I was on next. As soon as they got finished saying that, I was supposed to get to the podium and speak. And I was so hit with what I heard, and it surprised me so much that I had to kind of like change my whole presentation. What happened was this, to show you how deeply embedded in our psyche we are in terms of this business economic thing. I sat there and I listened to as many names as I could. And I heard the names of politicians. I heard the names of civil rights leaders. I heard the names of Jackie Robinson. I heard the names of athletes. I heard the names of musicians. I heard the names of all kinds of people. But guess what name you never hear? the name of prominent black business people. You will never hear prominent business people, black, don't make a difference how many black folks they hired. Don't make any difference how much money they loan people to get out of their jam. Doesn't make any difference what they invented to make people's life better. There's only one person that somehow escapes, and her name is mentioned. One lady. Anybody know who I'm talking about? Madam C.J. Walker is the only black business person's name that you will ever hear when you hear about black people praising people in the past as business people. So I'm saying to myself, no, Subira, do you know what these people are just telling you without knowing that they're telling you? They're telling you that in their mind, it's almost inconceivable for them to see a black person as both a business person and a hero or a liberation fighter at one and the same time. You either A or B, you can't be both. Right. So how is it that we can talk about economic development today and in the future when we have no intention of even recognizing what we've already done the 100 and some years we've been out of slavery? So I said, okay, that's something that I need to bring to their attention so they can see what part of the problem is. Part of the problem is our own programming with respect to business. Now, how did this come about? Well, I don't have a guarantee that I can explain to you how it came about, but I do have a theory as to how it came about. And the theory is this: slavery was an extension of the capitalist system. And when you are against slavery and you are against a system that says reap the highest form of profit regardless of cost, even if it means genocide in terms of the Indians, even if it means slavery in terms of African Americans, then you just go ahead and do that because profit is the ultimate thing that we're looking for. And from that kind of anti-capitalist thought, we developed an anti-business attitude. Not to forget the fact that during the segregation phases of our existence in the early 1900s and mid 1900s, it was largely the business community that hired us at such, measly wages and kept us out of their concerns, had us coming at the back of the door and all that kind of stuff during era of segregation. And again, that did not endear us to them or them to us. And so I understand the genesis of the anti-capitalist, therefore anti-business thought. But if that was so logical, then we would never run for governor. We would never run for mayor because we sure enough had racist mayors, and we could talk about how corrupt the political system is and how we shouldn't be a part of that. But once it became clear, damn, if I can get enough people to vote for me and we can run this town, maybe we can make some changes. The same thing, it appears to me, could and should apply in the area of economics, but it just didn't go that way. It didn't go that way. We seem to have been willing to integrate and see as a tool for our use almost every aspect of American society except the economic system, which seems to be gaining favor more and more throughout all parts of the world that in the past couldn't care less about American capitalism.
That was the late, great George Subira. You can check out this entire talk on YouTube. It's called George Subira, Close Encounters of Fourth Kind, Black Eco Development, 29 December 1997, Trenton. That's it for me. Reverend Ike's on tomorrow. See you then. Peace.